I knew something was wrong the moment I opened my closet. The hangers were crowded. Too crowded. Bright dresses I would never wear. Perfume I didn't own. Shoes 2 sizes smaller than mine, lined up neatly like they belonged there. My sister's clothes. In my closet. I stood there, key still in my hand, heart beating slowly, not fast. Fast would have meant shock. This felt deliberate. I walked into the kitchen where my mother was sitting calmly, sipping tea like it was any other evening. "Why are Jenna's clothes in my room?" I asked. She didn't look up. "She needed space," she said. "You have more. More space. More patience. More tolerance." I laughed once, quietly. "She didn't even ask," I said. My mom finally met my eyes. "You're overreacting. It's temporary." That word again. Temporary. The same word they used when Jenna borrowed my car. When she stayed a few nights. When she crossed every line and waited for me to move it further. I went back to my room and sat on the bed, staring at the closet door. They thought I'd argue. Thought I'd cry. Thought I'd beg to be considered. Instead, I did something else. I closed the door. And in that moment, I decided something they wouldn't notice until it was too late. I wasn't going to fight them. I was going to let them. Because sometimes the best consequences begin when you step back and allow people to show you exactly who they are. I didn't say anything that night. I folded my laundry around her clothes. Stepped carefully so I wouldn't disturb her shoes. Slept on the edge of my bed like a guest. Jenna came home late, humming, completely at ease. "Oh good," she said when she saw me. "You found everything." Found everything. Like I'd misplaced it myself. She didn't thank me. She didn't explain. She just opened my closet wider and started rearranging, pushing my clothes to one side so hers could breathe. I watched quietly. My mother peeked in, satisfied. "See," she said. "No drama." That was the moment they misunderstood me. They thought silence meant agreement. That stillness meant weakness. What it really meant was observation. Over the next few days, I let it continue. I let Jenna take over my dresser. Let her leave makeup on my desk. Let her borrow my shoes without asking. I documented everything. Photos. Dates. Messages. When my dad joked, "Looks like Jenna moved in," I smiled and said nothing. Because people reveal their true entitlement. When they think there are no consequences. And I was done correcting them. I was done reminding them this was my space, my home, my life. Instead, I was letting them get comfortable. Because comfort makes people careless. And careless people leave evidence. Jenna stopped pretending it was temporary. She started inviting friends over, into my room. Borrowing my things. Using my bathroom like it came with her name on the door. When I came home late one evening, she was sitting on my bed, laughing on FaceTime. "Oh, sorry," she said, not moving. "We're almost done." I waited in the hallway until she finished. My mother watched from the kitchen, lips pressed tight. "Just be patient," she whispered. "She's going through a lot." That phrase again. She's going through a lot. So was I. I just wasn't allowed to show it. The next morning, I found a note on the counter. "We told Jenna she can stay as long as she needs. Be supportive." No signature. No discussion. Decision made about me, without me. That's when I understood the real problem. It wasn't my sister's clothes in my closet. It was the assumption that my boundaries were optional. That my comfort was flexible. That I'd always be the one to adjust. So I adjusted. I stopped asking permission. Stopped explaining myself. Stopped making space. Instead, I started planning. Quietly. Carefully. Because once people get used to taking from you, They never notice when you begin preparing to take your life back. I packed without telling anyone. Not dramatically. Not all at once. A bag here. A folder there. Important documents slipped into my backpack before work. I kept smiling at dinner. Kept answering texts. Kept letting Jenna treat my room like a shared rental. They didn't notice. That was the most painful part. On Friday, my mother asked, "Can you watch the house tomorrow? Jenna has plans." I nodded. Sure. Saturday morning, I left early. By the time they realized I was gone, my side of the closet was empty. My desk was clear. The bed stripped down to bare sheets. No note. No argument. Just absence. My phone lit up by noon. "Mom, where are you?" "Jenna, this isn't funny." "Dad, you're being dramatic." I didn't answer. I checked into a small studio across town, paid for with money I'd been quietly saving while covering shared expenses. That night, I sat on the floor with takeout and felt something unfamiliar. Space. No borrowed perfume. No shoes in my way. No voice telling me to be patient. The next morning, I sent one message to the family group chat. Since my room became shared without my consent, I assumed my presence was optional too. "I've moved out. Please don't contact me unless it's to discuss returning my belongings or respecting boundaries." Then I muted the thread. Because sometimes the only way people learn what they took for granted is when it's finally gone. They didn't respect the boundary. They panicked. My phone filled up within hours, calls stacked on calls, messages sent faster than they could think. "Mom, you embarrassed us." "Dad, you could have talked to us like an adult." "Jenna, so now I'm the villain?" No one asked if I was okay. No one asked why I left. They just wanted the inconvenience fixed. On Sunday, my dad showed up at my door. Unannounced. He stood there like I'd betrayed him personally. "You don't just leave," he said. "This isn't how family works." I kept the door half closed. "Neither is moving someone into my space without asking," I replied. He scoffed. "It was just clothes." "No," I said. "It was permission you didn't think you needed." Behind him, my mother stayed in the car. Jenna didn't come at all. That told me everything. They weren't ready to listen. They were ready to pressure. "I'm not coming back," I said calmly. "Not unless my boundaries are respected." His face hardened. "So you're choosing distance over family?" I met his eyes. "I'm choosing myself," I said. For the first time. He left without another word. And as the door closed, I realized something steady and grounding. They weren't losing control of me. They were losing access. And that was the consequence they never expected. The next message came from my mother. Not angry. Worse. "Let's talk like adults. Come home for dinner." Home. Like nothing had happened. I replied once. Carefully. "I'll talk if we agree on boundaries first." The response was instant. "You're being extreme." There it was again. Extreme was their word for inconvenient. I sent a short list. Ask before using my space. No moving anyone into my room. My belongings are not communal. No guilt or pressure when I say no. The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, "Jenna is family. This feels cold." I exhaled. "So is respect," I typed back. And I didn't get any. That night, Jenna finally texted me directly. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." I stared at the message. Exactly, I thought. I replied, "That's the problem." There was a long pause before her response. "So what now?" I looked around my quiet studio. The clean closet. The space that was mine. "Now," I typed, "I don't disappear to make room. I stay where I'm welcomed. She didn't reply. And for the first time, I felt it settle. I wasn't asking to be chosen anymore. I was choosing myself. And letting that be enough. A week later, my mom finally called. Her voice was softer. Careful. The kind of tone people use when they want something. We've been talking, she said. Your sister feels bad. I waited. She didn't mean to overstep, my mom continued. She just assumed you'd understand. There it was. Assumed. Does feels bad come with my things being returned? I asked. A pause. Well, she's settled in now. I closed my eyes. So the apology has conditions, I said. I forgive her, but she keeps the space. That's not fair, my mom replied. She needs stability. So did I said quietly. And no one worried about that. My mom sighed. What will it take for you to come home? I answered honestly. Nothing, I said. Home is where I don't have to negotiate basic respect. Another pause, longer this time. I don't recognize you anymore, she said. I smiled to myself. That's because I stopped being convenient. The call ended without resolution. But something important happened after that. The messages slowed. The pressure eased. The control loosened. Because when people realize guilt no longer works, they have to choose something else. And for the first time, my family was being forced to decide. Whether they wanted access to me. Or just control over me. I never went back for the room. I let them keep the closet. The hangers. The space they'd decided wasn't really mine anyway. What I took with me was more important. My time. My peace. My right to say no without explaining it 3 different ways. Months later, I ran into my mother at the grocery store. We stood between shelves like strangers who shared a past neither knew how to hold anymore. Jenna moved out, she said quietly. It didn't work. I nodded. Not surprised. She misses you, my mom added. We all do. I believed her. But missing someone isn't the same as respecting them. I'm glad she's okay, I said. I am too. That was the end of it. I didn't need an apology tour. I didn't need them to finally admit they were wrong. Because the real consequence had already landed. They learned what my presence was worth. Only after it was no longer guaranteed. My studio became a home. My closet stayed mine. My life grew quieter and stronger. I came home to find my sister's clothes in my closet. So I let them. And by letting them take what they thought they were entitled to, I finally took back everything that mattered.